Oh my goodness. So I've had about a week to process. This was my first book conference. I'd never been to one. While the idea of meeting authors is really exciting, I find that I do better, I feel better, I feel more accomplished if it's in a smaller setting, like at a bookstore, at a small signing, things of that nature. And because I've lived close to major metropolitan areas, I've never felt like I didn't have access to authors. There were always events happening in my area around me that I could get to. So it wasn't like I needed to go somewhere where there were going to be many authors to get the most bang for my buck. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. One of my secret goals is to moderate panels at book conferences, especially romance conferences, especially conversations about how we talk about sex and romance and diversity and inclusion and all of those things. So, if you're someone who's looking for a panel moderator, me. And I wanted to get experience. I need experience. I need to know, what are people looking for? What is the vibe like at book conferences rather than just interviews or like Comic Cons, things of that nature. So I went to a book conference in my area here in Chicago called Wild and Windy Six. 98% of my experience was incredible, incredible. Oh my goodness. I had no idea really what to expect. I didn't know a lot of the authors, which I'll get to later, but I didn't know a lot of the authors going in. So it was exciting to read new authors and get new stories and hear new perspectives. Book people are incredible. I got to meet so many romance readers who are just as passionate about romance as I am, who engaged in conversation, who were willing to be there and talk about fun things and talk about hard things and talk about what we like and what we don't like and just get to know each other, exchange information, become friends. And and the panels, these authors were so great. That was really my favorite part, which is why I'm even more gung ho about being a panel moderator, because those panels were, I think, where I got to have the most fun with authors. There were 1,000 tickets sold to this event, so lots of people, tons of people at this 2-day event, and the signing tables were a little overwhelming. It was really fast. There were a lot of people waiting, and it didn't feel like you got to have that one-on-one time with the authors. They tried, they did their best, and I really appreciated the effort and the kindness that the authors showed me when I introduced myself, when I got book signed, when I got swag signed, when I got book plate signed. Really, the kindness of these authors, just I cannot state enough. But it was super overwhelming because you're pulling a cart and doing all these things. The events that they had were fun. The panel topics that they had were fun. They also had erotic bingo, but I wanted to see panels. I know, I chose panels over erotic bingo. That's so unlike me. I felt like there was a lot of intentionality with the planning of it. The volunteers were so wonderful. There was a lot of chaos happening, especially in those first few hours of the signing event. And the volunteers just held space, held kindness. Day two, the leaders, Michelle and Nicole, just held space and really prioritized the attendees and the authors and our well-being and our sanity. But here are two things I want to talk about, because I think that this is a systemic problem. There were so few authors of color of anything other than white and cis and het. There just were. There were 70 plus authors, and I think originally two or three were BIPOC, and one of them had to back out for good reasons, for, health reasons, good reasons. But it meant that you just walked into the sea of whiteness. And as someone who's been so active in pursuing authors of color for my consumption, wanting to get as many authors at this conference so I could engage with them, so I knew what was going on, so I could be intelligent when meeting them or listening to them speak, meant that so many of my authors in the last month and a half have been white. And that's hard. That felt like it really went against what I was trying to do as a reader, as a consumer, and as someone here who's talking to social media, because I know not everyone on this platform looks like me and wants to read people who look like me. I don't even want to read that many people who look like me. We're boring. We're boring. So that was hard. And what it shows is I just don't think the invitations were sent out to enough people of color. I want a more diverse group of authors because there were diverse readers there. And what does it feel like for that reader to walk into a space where the only people telling stories do not look like them? That sucks. That sucks. The other thing, actually, you know what? I'm not going to talk about this in depth. I went into it in my blog post this week, so you can go read about it there. But what I'm noticing is there's still this feeling that women who talk about sex in general are automatically allowed to have their sex lives called into question or brought into the light. And those are two different things. Sex as a topic is different than one's sex life. And we would never ask questions about one's sex life to, number one, a man, or number two, people in other industries, or doctors. Like, you don't ask your OB or your proctologist about their sex life, even though they deal with vaginas and vulvas and penises all day. But for some reason, it became okay in this space to ask intimate questions of these authors. And that's just so icky to me. That's not what they signed up for. That's not what they're here to represent at all. So when thinking about conferences, and what I would love to see is more diversity and just a better understanding that these authors are entitled to their private life and that sex as a topic is different than one's sex life. And we need to respect that.